Hey everybody, it's Dave Duford here at Buy Life Insurance for Burial, where I help people like you get quality life insurance despite any sort of health issues you may have. And that leads me to today's title, which is the official guide to getting life insurance with a psychosis diagnosis. So most likely you're here usually because of one of two reasons. You're either looking for coverage on yourself or for someone you love that may have some sort of psychosis diagnosis, or perhaps you've had a recent decline for life insurance coverage because of a psychosis diagnosis. Either way, you're doing your due diligence to see what your options are for coverage. And my goal in this video is to give you a bunch of information, to be very thorough, to show you what your options are so you can make a good determination as to where you could get coverage potentially, and also figure out what kind of coverage would be best for you too. So let's get started. So to start with an overview, I'm going to talk about myself and my company to just formally introduce you. Then we're going to talk about examples of the psychoses that we're going to be speaking with or about today. And then I'm going to answer the question, can you even qualify if you have a psychosis diagnosis? Then we're going to talk about insurance types available, including term, whole life, and universal life, and guaranteed acceptance life insurance. Then we'll conclude by discussing how to apply and what the next steps are in applying for coverage with a psychosis diagnosis. So my name is David Duford. I'm the owner and operator of BuyLifeInsuranceForBurial.com. I specialize in helping people with their life insurance needs of all ages and of all different types of health. I've been licensed since 2011 as a life insurance agent, and I help over 3,000 family members, or have helped that many people with their life insurance needs. I'm also a published author. You can see my book down there at the lower left-hand corner entitled The Official Guide to Buying Final Expense Life Insurance. I'm also an insurance agency owner. I train and recruit agents across the nation to do exactly what I do in these videos and help people in their own communities with their life insurance needs. I'm also married with children, with my fourth one due any day now, so wish us luck. Okay, so let's first define what a psychosis definition is. So for the sake of just being thorough, it is a broad definition. Psychosis is an umbrella condition. There's various forms and levels of severity. But here's when I say psychosis, here's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about anxiety, and these can be low-level anxiety, situational. This can be chronic anxiety, severe anxiety. So anything that falls into the anxiety umbrella, we're going to talk about that. Also depression. From mild situational depression, the clinical depression, the major depression, all of that applies here. Schizophrenia, as well as paranoia and bipolar and manic depression. So we're going to talk about all of these in the context of this particular educational video. So can you get life insurance? Yes. The short answer is yes if you have a psychosis diagnosis. The long answer is it depends. It's going to depend on your age. Mostly what we're going to be talking about in this video is for people between the ages of 25 to 85. And then it's going to depend on a specific type of behavioral health disorder and level of severity. I won't pull any punches here. A certain anxiety or certain psychoses are okay, and then others will be more difficult. There are options in most circumstances that are available to you, but understand it's going to just depend on your unique situation and how it all falls out. So let's take a look at the types of programs you may qualify for. So the first thing, before we go into any specifics, it's really important to identify what you want to accomplish. And before I even help anybody with their life insurance, I want to know what their goals are. I want to know what they want to accomplish, why they're even buying a policy to begin with, because we want to know your goals to figure out what options are the best, because not all life insurance is the same. So what do you want your life insurance plan to do for you? Have you given that much thought? What is it that you want this policy to do? Do you want it to cover final expenses? Do you want it to cover things like a cremation, a burial, any types of final expenses you may leave your family? Do you want to replace income? If you're young or old, if you leave your spouse behind, does that affect their lifestyle? Does that affect their quality of living? An income replacement plan via a life insurance policy is a great idea. Or maybe you just have debt you want to repay, and you want a policy to cover for that just in case. Also, second of all, what kind of budget do you have in mind? What are you comfortable paying? Have you given that some thought? I'm a big advocate as an insurance agent. You got to get something that's easily affordable. You don't want to spend too much on insurance because you don't want to drop it, right, if it's too expensive. So there are three types of life insurance options available to those people who have psychosis diagnosis. So the first is term, the second is permanent or whole life or universal life insurance, and the last is guaranteed acceptance life insurance. We're going to talk about both, so let's jump right into term insurance for those who have a psychosis diagnosis. So Let me define what term insurance means if you've never heard of it. A simple definition is it's temporary coverage over a period of time, meaning it's going to last from today to 10 years, 20 years, or somewhere greater or less than that. The benefits of this kind of plan are there are level premiums. The premiums don't go up for most of these types of plans until the policy reaches that endpoint. And typically, it is the best way to get the most coverage for the least dollar of premium put into the policy. So a lot of people buy these plans when they're young to get a lot of coverage for a cheap price. They get these plans to cover large obligations. And just a lot of people are attracted to term. That's why it's the biggest seller, because you can get a lot of coverage for the least amount of money. The biggest drawback, so bottom line, is temporary insurance. It's term insurance. It terminates. You could outlive it. You may not be able to afford the prices when they skyrocket after the end of the term. And the thing is, with term insurance, generally there is a lot tougher underwriting than the simplified issue whole life types of plans. And here's how it kind of relates to your particular setup if you have a psychosis diagnosis. Higher level of underwriting certainty with uncertainty, with more severe behavioral health issues. So with schizophrenia or bipolar, most likely the underwriters are going to look into more detail as to the level of severity. I have seen a cooling off of underwriting standards towards the more severe psychosis diagnoses. By no means am I guaranteeing that you can get qualified, but I have seen a level of flexibility offered with those than compared to other products. Now, generalized anxiety, if you have generalized anxiety and nothing severe, generally speaking, if it's under control, you may qualify for some kind of coverage. If you're somewhere in between there or aren't sure, definitely stick around, because I have other products that you'd be totally fine with, even if you have severe bipolar or severe schizophrenia. Based on how these products underwrite you, they will get you coverage at a very competitive rate with quality coverage. So let's talk about whole life insurance now. And so what whole life insurance does is it offers permanent protection. Now, with whole life insurance, the rates never go up, and it never cancels because of age or health either. Now, I put a little asterisk by Universal Life. This is a permanent plan, but the way those works is that if you don't get the right kind, the rates may potentially go up in the future. I do what's called guaranteed universal life plans. Those have a guaranteed premium as long as you continue to pay the premium and don't adjust it downwards. And they'll guarantee your policy can't lapse because of that in exchange. So I like these because if the benefits here are you want permanent protection, you've got a permanent problem you need a permanent solution to, like say a final expense plan, these are great plans because you can't outlive them. They won't go up in price as long as you follow their procedure in paying the premiums. And in many cases, even with the conditions of a psychosis, you can get first day full coverage. The cons, the drawbacks are you're going to pay a lot more for coverage than you would with term insurance. Generally speaking, for every dollar of coverage with term insurance, you're going to pay 5 to 10 times higher with a permanent product. There's a big gap there, but it just depends on how your underwriting falls out. Now, with non-med and fully underwritten whole life and guaranteed universal life plans, you're going to have similar underwriting standards. So if you're looking at a guaranteed universal life plan or a fully underwritten whole life, it's going to have to follow the same guidelines as the term insurance we just talked about. And again, where we're going with that, there's levels of higher uncertainty if you've got a more severe behavioral health issue, whereas general anxiety, you may qualify for standard coverage. Now, here's the thing. If those two were not necessarily be able to work, the traditional term life or the traditional underwriting on guaranteed universal life or whole life, then what we offer are two different other options that fall within this whole life category. The first is simplified issue whole life. They're much more flexible with behavioral health issues than a lot of the other products. I regularly get people with depression, bipolar, and schizophrenia first day full coverage with simplified issue whole life insurance at affordable premiums. So if this fits you, then this is definitely an option. Again, I don't know where you fit, but I want to share this with you because I want you to know there are options and you're not up the creek without a paddle. Now, our last choice for coverage, if all else fails and there's literally no other options for coverage, are what's called guaranteed issue whole life insurance for people with psychosis diagnosis. The way this works is very simple. The premiums never go up, the coverage never cancels due to age or health, but the biggest downside is you're not covered for the first 2 full years for natural death. If you do die from accidental death, you are covered from the first day. And the limitation for coverage usually caps out at $25,000, but you can stack more policies on top of that if you need more. And I want to point out this last italicized bullet point. This is a last-ditch effort. This is if nothing else works. I don't put people into these plans willingly or as my first option. I always try to see if we can get a simplified issue or even a normal whole life or term life product instead. So the important point I want to make with you here is that you do have an option, and this is the last point. And generally speaking, this is if nothing else works. But most likely, you're not going to fall into this. So maybe you found this interesting, you learned a little bit about how life insurance works, and you feel like, hey, maybe I would like to try to qualify for some kind of plan. Let me give you the process in doing so. It's very easy to apply for a life insurance plan. First, you want to pick the agent you want to work with. Of course, I'll nominate myself. I do these videos for educational reasons, and I also run an insurance agency as well, so I can help you with life insurance. Second, after you listen to me and I listen to you and drop a quote for you, if you like what you see, we agree to do an application, usually emailed or over the phone. And then usually it takes a couple of days or weeks. We'll get a ultimate decision whether you're accepted or not. And if you're accepted, you approve it, and we go forward, and you get your policy a couple weeks later, and that's it. It's a very simple, streamlined process. So how do you move forward? How do you get the process started? How do you apply for life insurance? Very simple. Visit buylifeinsuranceforburial.com and request a free quote by either clicking the contact box or the message box in the bottom of the website. Or you can just call me direct at 888-626-0439. You'll speak to me live, and I'll be able to run a quote within 5 or 10 minutes. If you like it, great. If not, no problem. We'll still be friends. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. I'll be happy to respond back to you to see what I can do for you. And my name is David Duford at Buy Life Insurance for Burial. Thank you for watching. See ya.